Hello, 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 beautiful unicorns. Welcome back to our live podcast, Heal the Unicorn, that we live stream into our Facebook group called Heal the Unicorn Emotional Healing and Spiritual Growth for Women. So if you're listening to this podcast on a different platform of your favorite choice of podcast platforms, then come and check out the group and see if this is a community and a tribe you've been looking for. And if not, no hard feelings whatsoever. Keep looking for a place that you can call home and you can call your tribe where you feel comfortable and safe during your healing and spiritual growth evolutionary type of a journey that you're on. So, as always, your loyal hosts, Anna Angelova.
Hey everyone. Happy New Year. This is actually the first time we are live in 2025. My name is Anna Angelova. I'm an energy leadership coach and the other half of Empath Unicorn Academy, where we specialize in helping women create an abundant life, life full of happiness and fulfillment. And of course, we also help with the healing journey as well. And I'm also a co-host of this awesome podcast.
Awesome. Thank you. And glad to have you here joining me in the first time live in this new year as we all start our New Year resolutions. And maybe many of you are not starting a New Year resolution, but you're just continuing with the previous year. Um, because sometimes when we start the New Year resolutions, we tend not to stick to them. So, today's topic that we have for you all, actually, before we go on, I gotta introduce myself. I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't introduce myself. So let me take a moment and reintroduce myself as I do in each and every podcast, so that way you won't forget it. My name is Yana Kasperczak, and I'm your certified professional performance and spiritual awakening core energy coach. And it has been my soul's purpose to help women, to help you get your shit together so you can break free from that mental prison you find yourself in and build a business, life, and or a career that you are obsessed with. So, and that's why the topic that we have for you all today is breaking free from fear, steps to reclaim inner peace. So we're going to talk about what it is and what it looks like and what it feels like to break free from fear. What is it actually, and what fear is, and I mean, what isn't, you already know. And we'll share some steps, some realistic steps, most importantly, that you can take that will help you to start and or continue to take towards reclaiming your inner peace. The way that I would start it is that really it's a reminder that you are in charge of your own peace. And you cannot expect everyone else to tiptoe, pardon my language, but around your sensitive feelings, because that's something that I had to learn. And this is the phrase that I reminded myself, and sometimes I still remind myself. It's not everybody's job to tiptoe around my sensitive feelings, because there are days when my feelings are very sensitive, when I am fragile. And as a woman, you could probably imagine what time of the cycle we're sensitive. For me, it's usually leading up to the cycle a week before. And this is where, the famous phrase of, are you in your period? No, I'm not. I'm like, let me go check my calendar. Is it coming? Because I think it is. And I look at my calendar and it is coming. I'm like, well, F you for pointing that out to me. How dare you? But then I remind myself, these are my sensitive feelings, and it is simply not fair of me or of anyone to cater to me, because you yourself, you don't want to be doing that either. You don't want to be walking around on eggshells. You don't want to be catering to everyone. And at the same time, yes, you do want to be respecting everyone, and this is where you gotta find the balance and be open for conversation with those people that might be triggering your sensitive feelings. but also remembering that they're your feelings, and if you're triggered by something, do not ignore it. Embrace it and approach it and take it as an opportunity for growth and evolution. That can be your New Year resolution that continues year in and year out, year in and year out. So this is where I would start. I want to hear from Anna. Let us hear from you.
Yeah, it's a great starting point. And since you mentioned like feelings, actually, what I wanted to add on is part of the title of the podcast for today is fear, like breaking free from fear. And like fear is a crippling, it can be a crippling feeling. And one of the things actually, I was thinking that it might be a good idea to like awareness is always the first step, right? Like for anything, awareness is always the first step, and knowing what fear is and where it comes from, and that it actually has a purpose. Like it's not something that's we just have, like we just feel fear out of nothing, right? It actually has a purpose, and I really like this idea that we ultimately have three brains in a way. Like
Mhm.
one is the one that the only purpose it has is to keep us alive. The one that controls our heartbeat, our breathing, like all these things that we don't even. I know that people can control these, especially like you've probably heard of the stories of those yogis and people in India who can like slow their heart rate so much. But in general, like one of the brains we have is the one that keeps us alive. The only thing it does is survival, no matter what. Like this is the only thing it does. Then we have the monkey brain, the one that's like,
My
oh,
favorite.
squirrel, right?
Squirrel?
And the other one, I think you recommended this book. I started listening to it. I forgot the title. Um, the monk, basically monk brain, like the one that's the brain that is the newest part of our brain, the one that is associated. Like this is the one that makes us set those intentions, so the goals at the
The
beginning
one,
of the year.
how to think like a monk?
Think like a monk, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So like he talks about the monkey, like the
Jay
monkey
Shetty.
brain and the monk. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So uh, knowing that actually fear is really like ingrained, and it's one of the emotions and the signals that helps us survive. Like it comes from a point of survival. Like and it triggers the uh, fight, flight, or freeze response. And ultimately, like if you think about fear itself, like evolutionary and what it is, like it has a purpose. And in the past, like we needed this. Like if you were not afraid to walk by a cave, a known cave, you were probably eaten by a cyber tiger, whatever they were. And that's it, right? You didn't survive, and if you didn't have any kids, like your line was over. So ultimately, there was a purpose behind fear. The problem with fear nowadays is that it's triggered by things that are not life-threatening. It gets triggered by things that we perceive. And this is actually the definition. If you check the definition of fear, it's perceived danger. Like it's not just danger, but it's like perceived danger. And
Mhm.
yes, like evolution, with evolution, it was something that when we perceived something as dangerous, it helped us survive. But today, perceived danger is like, I'm kidding you, like I'm not kidding you with this one, but it's like when like one of the things we do is like for the women who join our community, like if you say yes to wanting to learn more about what we do and what we offer, like Yana or I message you, uh, I still have that moments of fear of just sending a message and saying hi. It's unreal the way that it works, right? So just understanding, like for me, just understanding where fear comes from and what it signifies as well, right? It means that I perceive something as danger, and it also means that fear can also mean that you think that something will be lost, or something that you want to have or have will be lost. Like this is like it's a signal. It's basically a signal. and allowing myself to, like, the awareness again, as I was saying with the awareness, the moment that I realize, oh, I'm afraid, like I feel fear. The moment when I realize that I'm actually experiencing it, I can stop and see what's going on and start thinking about it rationally. Like, what will happen? Like, what's the worst thing that happen if I send a message to someone who said yes, that she wanted to know more about us? What's the worst thing that can happen, right? And like sometimes Facebook doesn't allow me to send the message, so I don't know if this is the worst or not. But then,
Mhm.
okay, let's say she ignores the message, or she says, "Oh, I don't care anymore. Don't message me." Like, what's the worst thing that can happen, right? And yet the fear is there. So just understanding where it comes from and that it's actually normal. This is one of the other things, like all the emotions, including fear, it's normal. And the thing is that what's not, like, what we don't want to do is we don't want to live in fear, like in constant fear, and allowing this to cripple us. And understanding, I do feel like understanding where it comes from and what it signifies is like the first step to be able to catch yourself when you are experiencing it, to be able to reclaim your inner peace. And sometimes it takes like just a few seconds to realize, wait a minute, this is irrational. Like, what am I doing? Like, what am I afraid of? Right? Like, it just takes a few seconds. What and again, here we're talking about things that no, not a wild animal attacking us, right? Like, we're not talking about this kind of fear. We're talking about those irrational things that we all have, like the fear of not being good enough, the fear of rejection, fear of failure and success. Like, Yana, with you, like we've had so many conversations about the fear of success. Like, what will happen once we are at the level we want to be? Like, what will happen when we have hundreds of women in the imposter vanishing quest, right? Like, and it can be scary, and it can stop us from living our life to the fullest. So, uh, again, understanding where it comes from, what it is. For me, this is always the first. And I'm more of a logical and
Mhm.
analytical person. So for me, like having that uh, baseline and this uh, understanding that, okay, this is what it is, I'm aware of it, now I can handle it. If I know what it is, now I can handle it. Now I can be like, okay, this is not real, move forward. And start to train myself to send messages and be like, oh, I don't even care now. So anyway, this is like, I really think it's important to know where it's coming from. And every single emotion, not just fear, like every single emotion has a purpose. It's there to tell us something, and that's why emotional intelligence is actually such a great thing.
Mhm. No, I agree, and that's a great start as well because when it comes to fear, there's a lot of irrationality in fear, and as much as we would all like to think and believe of ourselves as being a very rational human beings by nature are not necessarily rational. And it takes a moment to pause and be rational. And maybe for some of us, we are analytical, like you, Anna, while for others, we're not so analytical. We're very kind of impulsive and, yes, questioning everything. It's part of analyzing, but not like I don't need a whole entire chart and different charts of figuring out and making a decision. I make decisions primarily just like on the fly as yes or no, like in the moment, very intuitively. And almost like I'd be going from one flower to the next. And I'm like, look at that flower. And it's good. But at the same time, no matter what approach we take and how we live and who we are, there's always advantages and disadvantages to it. So even if we want to live with no fear, there's also disadvantages in not having any fear. There are people who are don't have it's almost like how there's no pain receptors that some people are born with that if they touch something hot
Yeah,
they
yeah,
do,
yeah.
right? So there's people
I,
who don't have access to their emotions like that.
yeah, I've heard that autism. depending on the spectrum. The kids with autism that sometimes they don't have like they don't understand these things, like they don't have access to this. And yeah, absolutely. As I said, fear is a natural emotion that helps us in general. Like it has a purpose, and its purpose is to help us survive. And you have kids, right? And you've seen how kids are very fearless, right? Like they don't know unless
especially
you
boys.
signal, unless you signal to them that, oh, this is dangerous. They don't know that this is dangerous. And ultimately, like without you having the fear to help you uh, stay away from danger, uh, as I said, you pass by that cave with that tiger, and that's it. Bye bye. End
Yeah.
of journey. So absolutely, like you said, pros and cons in a way, yeah. And it has a purpose. That's why like no judgment, right? Like we're not judging any of the emotions or saying, oh, you shouldn't be feeling fear. Fear is a natural response to danger.
Yeah.
The question is the danger real or not? And
Yeah.
most of the danger in our world, in what we do, is perceived.
And fear itself is a flag. It is often an opportunity for us to see where we are meant to be growing and evolving more. And often the things that we are trying to run away from are the very things that are going to help us grow and evolve and become that version of ourselves that we are meant to be and acquire and live the life that we want to live and have the things that we want to have. Everything that we want is on the other side of fear. When you were talking about sending those messages to the women who said yes and put their hand up, yes, I want more information, you probably remember how and for how long I was scared to start a conversation, to put myself out there. Videos, no problem. Yes, I'll do that. I'll go live. But sending a message and have a conversation with a woman one on one was scary and intimidating. Why? It's because there's a lot of stories from my past experiences based on assumptions, based on interpretations.
And
The
ingrained in our DNA, because in the
yes,
past, rejection meant certain death, right? So, yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
So I've struggled with that fear, whereas now I send it no problem and I get so excited when there's a response. Whereas before, which feels like not that long ago, but it was reasonably a long time ago, what, year and a half ago, that I was even scared I would get a response like, oh my God, what do I do? It's like it's like you catch a fish, right? And then all of a sudden there's a fish and you don't know what to do with that fish. Even though your lady's not a fish, but it is an example of you growing a business, this is what you gotta do. You you cannot grow a business without any other humans. You need clients, you need prospects, you need that fish in the sea, in the ocean. And not everybody is going to be interested in the bait, in the thing that you're offering, in the product that you have that will help them solve this specific problem. Just like we were talking about imposter banishing quest. Those who feel ready and know that what they're dealing with is that imposter, the inner critic that is literally taking them down onto the ground and beating them up, that they're tired of being beat up by that, for the lack of better words, that bitch within within the bitch. um, that they're tired of it and they're ready to banish her. That's for them. But the rest are simply either not ready or it's not for them. They're looking for a different solution to essentially the same problem, honestly. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about fear. This inner critic, oh my God, the shit that she tells us, the things that are, the walls that she builds that we feel like we can't climb. This is where that fear of sending that first message was petrifying, and now I get excited to send the message, I get excited to receive. And then also, I was even at one point petrified of hopping on that conversation on that first call for just 15 minutes, and I was petrified of those. And
I
now
still
I,
sweat on this. Like I'm kidding you not. I sweat. Like when I have a conversation, like if you have a conversation with me, I still sweat. Like I'm still nervous and afraid of this. And I remember, Yana, you were sharing how when you started going live, like right now, you don't have a problem with this, right? But
Mhm.
you were sharing when you started going live, how hard it was. So
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of like I said, that inner critic, she can be very lovingly crippling.
Yeah, that's why I call her a bitch.
Yep.
Because she
Yep.
can definitely be one. Yeah, so when I started going live, just some of you who are not aware of, I literally was, my body was cleansing itself from all ends. So that just, I think that's already more than enough information, but that's how it was. And this was the fear. And this is the beauty with fear, right? Not every fear we're meant to tackle and overcome. For me, this is one of those fears that I was I'm not always a rational person, so I cannot rationally tell you why I kept going, kept doing these live videos. But there was a bigger part of me that because I'm connected to my intuition, and my intuition kept telling me, this is it. Just do it. Just do it. There's something in here for you. You don't need to know what it is. Because don't even bother yourself with what it is exactly, but you feel a pull, so go and do that thing that you feel a pull towards. I was feeling a pull towards live videos. I didn't know where it was gonna bring me, but here we are now doing the podcast and then other live videos that I do. Um, and then even the creation of the course. Initially, it was uncomfortable. Anytime we do something new, we cannot expect ourselves to be comfortable and like feel good about this new thing that we're doing. Yeah, maybe if you're eating ice cream for the first time, yes. But now as an adult, every time you do something new, usually it's going to be outside of your comfort zone and it's not going to feel good. It's not going to be very comfortable. So now on these 15-minute conversations, some of them I get really excited about, and sometimes I just have no emotions whatsoever. And it's not to say it doesn't really make a difference of who it is with. It's really just if I'm not feeling the greatest or if I didn't sleep well or maybe under the weather, this is where there's no emotions and it's not that I'm not emotional because once I am on and I have a conversation, then I'm in it. And other times, like I said, I'm excited. I'm like, okay, let's do this, let's go, because then it's gonna lead to the next conversation. And I'm even more excited with the next conversation because it's a little bit longer. And that's the moment that I get to know the woman in front of me that much more. So I get excited about knowing it's like when it comes to this part of the fear and this part of building a business for each and every one of you who's building a business where you gotta interact with human beings. Have a convers. It's like what is the purpose? What is the point of having a conversation? For me, if the reason why I was so terrified and petrified of it is because the intention behind it was to sell, was to make sure I have a client. I'm like, and for me, that is not what really drives me. So now my intention is to get to know the woman in front of me and build a connection and some sort of a relationship and a deeper connection. And everything else comes from a place of if this is the right tool for her, the right help, then great. Then we'll have the next conversation. If not, there are many others, right? And we have access to other people that we know might be helpful. So then we can refer to that individual. So, um, when you were talking about fear of success, this one I actually do hear from many women as well. So it's important to identify what fears we have and even having a list of these fears. This is my analytical mind, right? Let's analyze and let's put on the list and look at it never. Obviously, you gotta look at it, right, and go down that list. But that's as far as my analyzation expertise kind of goes. Make a list. Put in front of you so you see your fears and then you can go deeper in working into them. But you gotta know and see your fears. So, fear of success. If you want to dive in deeper and understand where it's coming from, why, that's going to be a great one because most people, even though they'll say that they're scared of failure, what they're actually scared of succeeding and then failing after they succeed. And also at the same time, fear of rejection, fear of not being accepted, not being seen, not being liked. You gotta learn and practice not caring what anybody else thinks or says. And if someone don't like you, some of you will say, "Oh, I don't care." But realistically, it's in our human nature to care. So practice not caring as much and rationalizing your trigger. Why are you, why is your fear response being triggered right now? And whether you're in the freeze, fight, or flight state, right? That's that's the ones, right? Fight,
Yeah,
flight,
yeah. Fight,
freeze.
flight, and freeze. Yeah,
Yeah.
please. Yeah.
So see where you are and then go from there. But fear itself is just you perceiving a certain kind of outcome, expect a certain outcome, and that you're not gonna get it. And you'll be seen, you'll be found out, just to name a few.
Yeah.
Um,
I really love what you were saying because, like, when you think about fear, it's energy level one, right? Like we
yeah.
we we know this. We've talked about the energy levels from the
Or fight
IPAC.
is level two.
Fight is level two. Rationalizing is level three.
Yeah.
And like these are the first three levels from the seven levels of energy framework from IPAC. Like we're both IPAC graduates, and like this is one of the most powerful frameworks I've ever experienced, and like it literally changed my life and the way I see the world and the way I see myself.
Mhm.
And really love what you're saying because like with fear, when we talk about steps that you can take to break free from fear and like reclaim your inner peace, like breaking free from fear, part of it might be fighting, and what you said, rationalizing, like these are really like these two are really um, doable steps, like rationalizing, even fighting. Like sometimes we think, oh, like getting angry is not good. Like there is something about like this judgment, but no, sometimes it's actually like fighting, like as a response to fear, can be the right thing for you to do, to get
Mhm.
out of the fear, to break from free from it. And like when we think about your natural response, like a lot of us, it's flight or freeze. I'm sure that, and we've seen this with the women we work with, that majority it's flight or freeze. We basically stay in that level one. For some it is fight, which means you get to that level two, and level two takes you to anger, takes you to, it gives you the adrenaline and gets you out of the fear. But if your natural response is freeze or flight, like this keeps you in level one, like this keeps you in
Yeah. That was mine.
uh, and this is where in mine too, mine as well, and this is where what Yana, what you were saying, rationalizing it and thinking, okay, what is happening, like this is where this helps. This is where tapping into level four as well can be really helpful, because a lot of us also have level four as the highest energy level, right? The one that cares about others, the one that wants to give and help and do things for others. So when we think about like if, and I know we already moved the conversation towards like how do we break free from that fear that we experience. Uh, I love what you said as well, that fear is a lot of times it's a sign that this is the path we need to take. That if we are afraid to take a step, this is the step we need to take. And fear, like overcoming fear, like having the courage to do something, interestingly, it actually takes what, 10, 20 seconds? Just sending that message. That's it. And then when you send that message, you see that, oh, the world didn't end. No one ate me. No one attacked me. I'm still here. It's good. Everything is good. Or it can be speaking like this live on a video or in front of an audience. It's only like that 10 seconds when you press the button and you show up and you start talking and you start sharing things. So getting out of the fear zone, it only takes a few seconds for you to take the action and get out of that fear zone, whatever it is. Because again, like most of the things we talk about, these are perceived dangers. This is a perceived, like something that doesn't really, like it's a, we're worried about a future outcome that's not here. And it only takes like 10 seconds, 20 seconds to do the thing, to take the next step. And whether it helps you to get into fight mode and be like, I'll show that bitch he's not right.
Yeah.
I'm in control. I don't care about my inner critic. Shut up. Or if it's something that, you know, okay, it makes sense that I go this way, that I reacted this way. Let me see what I can do now. I'm afraid to share my opinion, but let me share it, right? Let me send that email. Who knows? My manager might be understanding, or who knows that they might actually see my point as well. Whatever you are afraid that will happen, like you might rationalize it, or as I said, tap into that level 4 energy, caring about it, like where it you can get courage just from the idea that you know what, if I take this next step that I'm so afraid of, it will actually help my family. It will help my coworkers, my team, my community, whoever it is that you care about and that you will impact by taking the action. And one thing that I know we talk about a lot is small steps.
Mhm.
Like you don't have to conquer the world right now. Like Rome was not built in a day. One small step. Like, and it gets easier. Like Yana was sharing, I was sharing as well. Like it gets easier. Yes, I still sweat. Like I'm not sweating right now, which is awesome. Part of it might be big because it's like -9 Celsius here. But like now that we have these conversations, like these live podcasts, I don't feel that nervous. So right now I'm not sweating. Yes, I still sweat a little bit when I talk with someone new because I also have that human desire to be liked, to be accepted. I also have that attachment in a way to the outcome that, oh, I want the conversation to go well, right? Uh, but it gets better. Every single day it gets better and better. And the more we do something, the easier it gets. Like you said, Yana, in the beginning it's hard. When we start something in the beginning, it's hard. But then as we do it often, like as we go through it, like it gets easier and easier. Uh, so small steps, small steps. And as I said, it starts with awareness. And then from there, it's like finding what works for you. Like, what is the thing that helps you get some courage and move forward? Like, do the thing that you are afraid of.
Yeah. And awareness, like we keep saying it, awareness is the first step. It is very important. And almost as equally as important as the moment that you become aware and you catch yourself in this fear, don't beat yourself up and you know, don't put yourself down. And at the same time, don't give in to the fear. Be gentle, be kind with yourself. You caught yourself in the act. Now it's time to own up to it. And here's here's basically what you can do. This is how I did it, and this is how you can do it. And I'll give you the simplified, straightforward version. List those fears, whether it's that the fear of rejection, and then also identify rejection with what specifically, because rejection itself is broad. You might not have the fear of rejection when it comes to, let's say, sending a message to someone, but maybe you have the fear of rejection of I don't know, making a new friend outside, right? Maybe you don't have the fear when it comes to the digital world, but maybe in the physical world you do. Or maybe you have the fear of rejection when it comes to sharing your ideas. What does the fear of rejection is? And go in deeper into what it is. And then maybe you have fear of speaking up. Maybe you have fear of going live. Maybe you have fear of saying, I love you. I had that fear myself, interestingly enough. Now, there's it's a big and deep rabbit hole, but the at the surface level, There was one relationship that I was in where I felt forced to say it. And eventually I said it, but it wasn't coming from a place of choice. It was coming from a place of I have to or else. And there was a lot of guilt and shame around it that I felt guilty if I didn't say it. I would hurt his feelings and his emotions. And that was not a healthy approach either. Even though he did give me the space afterwards. And then going on to the relationship afterwards, where this is the man that I ended up marrying, he approached it in a different way and he didn't force me to say it. And honestly, we were together for a year and a half before we got married. Together for 5 months before he proposed to get, and then a year and a half in total we got married. And I started telling him I love him pretty much when we were already getting married. Like, and then really started telling him that I loved him after we got married more confidently. And even as I'm saying it, it's so uncomfortable to share this intimate part of not only our relationship but of myself, because this is the I wasn't allowed to be myself. I wasn't allowed to be authentic in the previous relationships. Whereas in this one, I was, and I was giving that space. And it was a fear of mine. And the only way to break through a fear is to do it, is to do it once, twice, 10 times, 20 times, 50 times, 100 times, or 1,000 times. The same thing goes for rejection. You scared of rejection? Go get rejected. You will get rejected enough times that you'll say, fuck this shit, I ain't scared of it. You'll say I love you enough times that you won't be scared of someone not saying it back. Because really, for me, this was an irrational fear. Because what was I really scared of? Saying I love you. Like, he wasn't gonna say it back? Well, I can demand it back. I don't hear you, right? But it was an irrational fear. Re Fear of rejection also irrational because you're not gonna die. This is really what we're scared of. That we're really gonna die. This is gonna be it. This is gonna be the end, and this is where we start to sweat. This is why I was sweating. I was like, oh my God, people are gonna know who I am. Even though it doesn't really tell you who I am. It just shares one small fear that I used to have that I broke through. And now I give it out like candy, especially to my family. Right? We say I love you all the time in our household, whereas that's also not something that I grew up with. And there's some cultures that they never say it. They don't say it at all, but they show it. So, and at the same time, would you rather hear it or would you rather see it? I would much rather both.
And yeah.
So we don't necessarily have to settle for one or the other, or we can say, I ain't settling for one or the other. I deserve and I'm worthy of both. So say it and spray it, and then show it to me. So if you're scared of speaking up, speak up. How many times are you gonna speak up until you're comfortable and no longer scared of speaking up? Scared of being seen? Be seen. Scared of being heard? Be heard. Do it, do it, and do it until you are comfortable. And that becomes your comfort zone. And guess what? You're gonna have new fears, new things that come up, and then you get to do that again. So, really, this is how you reclaim your inner peace and break free from fear is you actually do it. And if you were here listening and hoping for some simple magic trick where you go and you burn a candle because spiritual group that you burn a candle or burn some sage or you chant and you do things like that and it just goes away, it helps. It definitely helps because in that process you're sending attention, but it's not going to solve the actual fear. Action, action, action will solve and resolve that fear that you're carrying and helps you to reclaim that inner peace because fear itself is I'll call it a relentless thief. And it's a thief that is really, really quiet because no one hears it outside of you. You do, but you often don't even hear it. You feel it. There's no words. And that's why it quietly steals and robs you of your dreams, your courage, your ability to live fully. And it convinces you to stay small and tiny and puny, not to try, to play safe, to avoid the unknown, because that's death. The unknown is a definite death. You're going to die, so don't try. But then what happens? What if you do try and you do break free from that fear? What's going to happen? You will find peace. You'll find that what you were scared of doesn't actually exist. And step by step, you will recognize that fear itself is it's a fantasy world, but a scary one. You've watched scary movies, and then you watch comedy, and you watch thrills, you watch all these kind of movies. All of those are fantasies. And our life itself is in many ways a fantasy. You being scared of sending out that message, that first message sending out to a potential woman that you can deeply connect with, or that might become a customer or might not, because it's a great side goal, but it's not necessarily, that's not my driving force. And what's going to happen is like that fear that you have, that's a fantasy, and fantasy is a bunch of different stories that you have, that you carry, that I had, that I carried. And in order for me to release them and let them go, awareness was the first step. I needed to understand the story. I needed to watch that movie, watch that clip, if you will, of the story that was happening in my mind, the fantasy that was happening in my mind, that was telling me, or that was crippling me. And it was, each one was labeled unknown, 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 unknown. So I needed to label them so I can understand which story was which, so I can go and tackle them. And they are connected to our emotions and our feelings. So list your feelings and emotions that you're scared to get hurt.
Yeah. And as you were saying, fantasy, uh, it's we were working earlier today. We were working on was it the ninth? Yeah, mission 9 for the quest. And one of the things that I saw, I've seen this one before as well as we were doing some of the work, is the description of fear that's false evidence appearing real,
Yeah.
like, that fantasy you were talking about. And I know you mentioned like we didn't talk about chanting and burning sage and all these kind of things, but one like yes, all these things help with intentions, and taking action ultimately is where we really see the difference. But one powerful tool, though, is imagination. Replacing that story with something else. Like, who do you want to be? Actually, in the situations where you're afraid, like, who do you want to be instead? Like, who do you want to, like, just picture yourself not being afraid, right? Picture yourself being courageous or like being confident, being the best you can be. And this is one of the things that I do nowadays is just before the day starts, I actually picture my day ahead, like picturing it going the way I want it to go. Does it go this way every time? No, but I set an intention and then I do the thing. Even the ones that I resist and the ones where I fear, definitely like taking action is definitely one thing that is the thing that makes the difference. Once you step into fear, it disappears. Like that illusion goes away once you step into the fear.
Mhm.
And one thing I know we have mentioned it a million times, and I will not get tired of mentioning it. And I know I've seen a lot of the women in our community They come from the same thing. Because fear is such a primal, it's such a primal emotion, it's such a primal driver. Everyone around us is using this. Mainstream media, uh, marketing gurus, or whatever you want to call them, everyone is using it. So one thing that we highly recommend, like I haven't watched personally, I haven't watched news in I don't know how many years now. Like I talk with my mom. I'm originally from Bulgaria. My parents are in Bulgaria. My brother is there. So I talk with my mom and she's like, "Oh, do you know what happened in Canada? Like what's going on?" I'm like, "I have no idea." So like, she's a continent and an ocean and a continent away, and she tells me news about things that happen in Canada. And again, most of the news, it's things that either don't matter to us or we have absolutely no control over. And what you were saying, Yana, when we focus in our zone of control and zone of comfort, as we grow this one, yes, we start to get comfortable with the things that were scaring us previously, but then the new ones come, right? That's why it's a journey. It's a beautiful journey, and if I'm to recommend two things, actually three things, because three is a magical number, the number of creation.
Hmm.
So as we are approaching the end of our conversation today, if I'm to recommend three things to help you break away from the fear and reclaim your inner peace, one will be related to your environment. Get rid of your input of fear. Like if you're still watching the news, stop watching the news, stop reading the news. Most of these things do not matter. If there is something that really matters, my phone is not here. I'm one of the few people that I have no idea where my phone is. Uh,
Mm, that's good.
we do have those alerts now, right? Like if something is there is emergency, like they will notify us. It will start beeping. So first, stop feeding fear into your mind. Like stop feeding fear through whatever channel and environment it is. Stop feeding fear to your mind. The second thing is take the action. Step into your fear. Do the thing. One small step a day, then repeat the same step tomorrow. Then repeat it the day after that. Keep on repeating, and you'll see in a month you'll be a different person. In a year, you won't even recognize yourself. And then the third thing is take our 21-day inner peace challenge. It will definitely help you break free from whatever fears you have and get into that inner peace you have been dreaming of. And it's the best time to start this as we are starting 2025. And if you actually start it today or tomorrow, you'll finish it by the end of the month. It's 21 days. So
Yeah.
if you start it this week, you can finish it before the end of January and start 2025 in a wonderful way. So these are my three recommendations.
And I love your recommendation, especially the last one. I know the 21-day challenge has been a helpful tool to quite a few of you in this community, and some of you actually go back and reuse it go back to specific lessons, specific day, specific part of the workbook because there's power in it and it's been
That
helping you,
meditation,
right? Exactly. There's certain meditations that are only in this challenge that you might have experienced if you have attended the Sacred Circle, but otherwise they're not anywhere else. Um, and we don't see those meditations being available anywhere else because they're specifically designed for these specific things, as they are a powerful tool. Another thing I would add to what you said is just more so a reminder to practice detaching yourself from that fear because you are not that fear. It's a part of you, but it is not you. So when you practice detaching and reminding yourself that this is not you, this is not who you truly authentically are, it's part of you, and that you are much stronger and braver and a lot more capable than what this fear and this voice within you, or this emotion within you is telling you, it can help you to calm your nervous system down. Because when your nervous system is shook and you're riddled with fear, it actually also affects every cell of your body, and it turns on the disease cell, because the disease itself, if you break down the word itself, it's dis-ease. So when there's dis-ease in your body, it attacks and affects every cell in your body. And there are, each and every one of us has cells in our bodies that are sick cells. So if you don't want to turn them on, practice calming your nervous system down. And if chances are you don't want to turn them on, right? And if you do want to keep them on, then keep your body in this ease that it's in. Um, Anxiety, depression, overwhelm, stress, burnout, worry, fear, um, guilt, shame, catabolic energy. That's what it does. It destroys your body. It rips you apart. It eats away at itself and even the healthy cells. So keep that in mind and remind yourself that you are in control, even if you don't feel like you are in control, by simply just reminding yourself that you are in control. You might not be in control of the whole entire thing, but the thing, you are in control in majority of things. And most importantly, you are in control of how you react or respond to external stimuli. So that's all I would say. Other than that, I feel like we're good. We've shared everything that we wanted to share with you all today. Just want to remind you to we'll see each other next week. Same place, same time, 11, that's the wrong time. 1:45 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesdays for the Heal Unicorn podcast, where we go live, unless we let you know ahead of time that we won't be going live for any particular reason. But our goal is to be live here, because the live experience is so much more funner than the recorded one. And for some of you, the recorded one might be funner, depending on where you are in a fear spectrum when it comes to being seen, being heard, and interacting as well. And those of you who love interacting or are ready to interact a little more, I would actually love to hear, what was your biggest takeaway from today's podcast? What are you taking away with you? What did you learn? That's really what it means. And then action is important. So what are you going to do with what you've learned today? Other than that, anything to add, Anna, or we're all wrapped up for the day?
Love it. We're all wrapped up for today. I really love this, and I'm thinking we should use it every single time. Biggest takeaway and one action. Like, knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power.
Yeah.
So, what did you learn today, or what did you remember? Because a lot of times we just need to be reminded of something,
Mhm.
and how are you going to implement it? Otherwise, thank you for watching, and it was a pleasure starting 2025 with you and with this awesome topic.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
until we see each other next week.
So we'll see each other next week. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all to all the new members and all the OG original gangsters members. And until we see each other next week at 1:45 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday, same place, same time. Have an amazing the rest of your day and the rest of the week if we don't see each other for the rest of the week. Bye, everybody.
Right?